Hello everyone, it is I, Ryan, also known as the Lovebat. So I'm here once again to go ahead and dive into a Magic the Gathering Arena draft video here, doing the Phyrexia All Will Be One set once again. And so we're going to go ahead and do, I think, a traditional draft, which I think would be the best of 3 draft. So traditional draft, we're going to do the best of 3 format this time for Phyrexia All Will Be One. My previous 2 draft videos have been Premier Drafts, which is just best of 1. It's a bit easier to go ahead and get extra gems that way. But with this one, basically what we're banking on is if we can get at least 2 wins against our opponents and kind of win a best 2 out of 3 against 2 opponents, then we'll be able to go ahead and get enough gems to where we'll be able to go ahead and do another draft video at some point in the future. But also, I haven't had a chance to either play best of 3 in this format or watch others play best of 3 so far. I think it's been primarily all Premier drafts from what I've seen of other YouTubers do. So I wanted to go and provide a sort of traditional draft best of 3 video for those who haven't seen best of 3 and preparing cards more for a sideboard, because there are some sideboard type cards in the set that you should probably consider at some point. So we'll go ahead and get right into it here, and we're going to go ahead and dive into a best of 3 draft here, and hoping that it's going to go good. And I'll go ahead and I don't know if I'll need to pause the recording here or not to wait for the seats to open, but I'll go ahead and just pause it anyway, and then when the seats open here and get taken up, I will go ahead and get back to you guys. So I'll see you then. Alrighty then, so it wasn't too long of a wait, so we're going to get right into it here with the best of 3 Phyrexia All Will Be One draft. So let's see how we do in a best of 3 format and see if we can maybe sideboard a bit better against some of the quick sort of decks that are usually in this set with a low curve, and see how we can do here. Okay, so we have some options here. We have Bladed Ambassador, which is good in sort of a white, green, or maybe even white, red sort of oil counter type decks. Easy to go ahead and give it an indestructible sort of ability to kind of do a combat trick with it. So it has 1 oil counter at the start. You can get more of Proliferate and other oil counter things. We have a Bildious Skull Dweller, which is a good sort of low curve toxic creature that can usually get in there for a couple of turns and enable corrupted synergies. Very common in black-white or green-black. Then we have a Mandible Justicar, which is great in the blue-white artifact decks, but it's also just a random 2-drop lifelinker. Annihilating Glare is some pretty decent removal in black and good in the black-white sort of sacrifice decks of token creatures. Bonepicker Scourge is a good corrupted card that goes well with the Skull Dweller. And then we have some green cards that are sort of toxic and different other things. I'm going to go for the Skull Dweller. It's maybe the easiest card to build around, and it's a low mana sort of creature, low curve, and it's an uncommon, which is less likely to wheel, or you're less likely to find it elsewhere. Green Sun's Twilight is the rare in this one. Reveal the top X+1 cards to library, creature land card. So this is kind of a situational, maybe more of like a constructed card from what I understand. You can put things onto the battlefield. It is like a 2-for-1 effect at minimum, but you know, you have to use X to ramp into it, I would think. So we have Proliferate here with Scheming Aspirant, or Proliferate payoffs here with draining the opponent and gaining life. Evolving Adaptive is great for an oil counter deck, and it's also good in any other deck as well. It can just get bigger as you get bigger creatures out into the field that are a higher curve. And then this is good for the toxic decks of the Crawling Chorus. And then we have some situational removal here, maybe more of a sideboard card. Evolving Adaptive can still be good in like a toxic deck that has a good amount of Proliferate in it, green-black toxic. And then there's a couple of cards there that we could hope to wheel if we get some Proliferate or toxic synergies going in green-black maybe. So here's a decent green-black card that's a toxic card. So 1/5 toxic 2. And then you deal combat damage and you can get some more poison counters going, so you can more easily poison an opponent out and more easily get corrupted on them with 1 or 2 attacks, depending on how much toxic that a creature has. Like a toxic 2 creature could get them to toxic 3 with 1 hit. And so toxic also getting Death Touch there with the activated ability is also pretty awesome. So say if we were able to go ahead and get Death Touch on like a 3/1 toxic 2, that green creature, the 2-drop. That would be pretty excellent here to give a 3/1 death touch, and so kind of makes the blocks a bit more tricky as far as getting blocks down. Conduit of Worlds is, again, more of a situational sort of build around type card, and then there's a couple of other toxic creatures in there that were in there as well that we could consider on the wheel. Alright, so Pestilent Siphoner is a very good toxic card here. It goes great with the Necrogen Rot Priest. So if they have a flying creature, if the opponent has like a flying creature, or perhaps they have a reach creature that's a blocker, we can give it Death Touch, and then they have to basically be okay with the trade in order to go ahead and deal with this. And then we also have this thing right here, the Basilisk, which could be okay on the wheel, not great. It's not really a low curve aggressive card. It's more of a blocker that occasionally you can get in there and attack with. And then Noxious Assault. This is a decent card to maybe finish the game, but it is sorcery speed. It's not like a surprise thing you can do. And then you have some combat tricks, and then you have an equipment here for the red-white equipment deck, which is pretty good, but not for our deck. Okay, so this is a great sort of poison counter deck card. You can just go ahead and sacrifice, a cheap creature or maybe a token. And in some cases, you can sacrifice like a Skull Bomb artifact, which is inexpensive to get onto the field. And you can draw a card for free. So that's something you can do. Skull Dweller is like a sack fodder. Evolving Adaptive, you probably don't want to sacrifice it. You just want to get it bigger. But either the Siphoner or the Skull Dweller, depending on the situation, can be good to sacrifice to this. Just a cheap creature to sacrifice that you don't mind getting rid of. Reach Trample. This is a good, decent green creature, but there are better 6-drops that are probably better for most decks. Reach and Trample is fine, but not great. Edict is sort of a situational, maybe sideboard type removal card in best of 3. Nothing really in here for us. Duress isn't really playable in the format. Not really much of a sideboard either. I mean, maybe against an aggressive opponent who, plays out cards quickly from their hand, and they end up with like 2 or 3 cards that are good playables, curve toppers, on turn 3 or 4. Maybe this is a sideboard card, but not something that I really think that I would end up playing. And then there's nothing else in any other colors. None of these are really a sign that's red's open. These are kind of mid sort of cards for the most part. Chimney Rabble is okay in a token type deck. I'm just going to go ahead and do the uncommon here for the vault. I like what we have in green and black. If red's open, so be it. I could maybe speculate on pivoting there, but nothing there was like worth a sign of pivoting into. So this could be okay if we maybe want to pivot into maybe a green-red oil deck. We do have the Evolving Adaptive, which is good with oil. So I could speculate on that. Like top 6 cards of your library, put top 2 land cards among them on the battlefield. So this is sort of like a rampy type card. Not really great in the format though, with the low curve that lots of decks tend to have. Don't really, but you can proliferate on it. So I guess I'll go ahead and take it over the Churning Reservoir. Since it does proliferate, that's good in the poison counter deck. And there are some cards that you can get proliferate synergies off of, like that 2-drop 1/3 card that was in the first pick, I think. And here you sacrifice. Again, situational removal that could be good in some decks where you have like a 3/1 creature to sacrifice. Titanic Growth is a decent combat trick, and then this can get a poison counter. So I think I'm going to take the Infectious Inquiry and just have a way to draw cards and put poison counters on the opponent that I can then proliferate. Alright, so the rare here, obviously not seeing people take this situational, more of a constructed oil deck type card. It takes a while to get going, and in a fast format like this, you're not really going to take that high. So we're going to go with the Bone Picker Scourge, and it has a good corrupted synergy to get Death Touch and Lifelink, so you can either get in with a creature that has Death Touch, or you can at least trade and get yourself some life back. Thirsting Roots could be an okay sideboard option, or just to have it just in case we want to splash a 3rd color here, because we can fish up a land and proliferate Death Touch, sort of, not the Death Touch, but the toxic poison counters. So at minimum, we can go ahead and proliferate once, and then we can also search for a 3rd color of mana. So this Skull Bomb is decent, but not great. I'm just going to go ahead and take the land here that's kind of free for the deck. And then Noxious Assault. This is maybe more of a sideboard option here, depending on the matchup. And then we'll just go ahead and take the red card and try and... Doesn't really make much of a difference here. I'm not going to play duress or sideboard into it, so no point. Alright, so Infectious Bite is pretty good here. We have ways to get Death Touch. We have one Death Touch creature, and then we can get that Bone Picker Scourge Death Touch. And then Pestilence Siphoner could get Death Touch from the Rot Priest as well. So we do have ways to give Death Touch that make Infectious Bites pretty darn good. And then they get a poison counter on the opponent, and we can proliferate that to increase it. Unfortunately, Unctus, as great as it is, in the sort of blue-white artifact deck, we can't really splash it because it's double blue, and we're not going to likely end up with many artifacts anyway. What else is in here? We have another Hunter Maze. I probably don't play two of them because it's a tapped land. The Gulping Scrap Trap can proliferate, so that could be something we hope to wheel. Nothing that's really worth splashing, and we can't splash the Unctus anyway, being double blue. Canopy there is more of an oil, green-red oil deck sort of card. Tainted Observer is a good reason to go ahead and splash a color, so I will just select that for now and take a look at the rest of the cards here. The 1/3 Basilisk with Death Touch and Toxic would be okay on the wheel if we're lucky. And then we have a Hive Master here as well, which would be a decent Toxic card we can attack in with. Trade it off for another creature, and if they don't block it, then we get Toxic and damage in there. And so we can go ahead and get it in there and trade it off and get a token back that we can sacrifice to like the Chittering Skitterling, or we can possibly sacrifice the Hive Master to the Skitterling, and then we get a token out of it anyway. This is good. This will be some good removal to have, but splashing the Tainted Observer for, again, a Toxic deck and proliferating a bunch of times, it's a very strong synergy, and we can do it over and over again, so to speak. So just get a bunch of creatures out there and keep proliferating until we just poison them out. Another Tainted Observer here is something I would be happy to take. So we're going to have to probably prioritize fixing. There's that 3 mana artifact that can give you mana of any color that we would hope to get in one of these packs. Another Thirsting Roots would be great, and then maybe a dual land that has 2 colors and has blue mana would also be good. Yeah, nothing else in here for us. I guess there's another Hunter's Maze. This is halfway decent in a Toxic deck. If we get this on the wheel, that would be fine too. Maybe more of a sideboard option if the opponent has lots of removal in their deck. But yeah, we're just going to go and take the Tainted Observer here because it's pretty awesome for a Toxic deck. Another Expand the Sphere. Not sure if I want to take that, but there's not a whole lot else in here for us. This has Corrupted Synergy, and the Prophetic Prism can go ahead and splash for the Tainted Observers, and it gets you a free, draw a card out of it as well. Expand the Sphere for Proliferate and putting the land cards. You can fish for lands, but you can't find a specific land like blue mana, for example. As great as this would be to have in our deck, it could wheel. This is more situational. We already have one, so I'm going to take the Prophetic Prism to hope to splash the Observers here. Alright, so we have a great sort of for Mirrodin type card in red-white here, which unfortunately someone else is going to get a nice card out of this. It's not going to be us. I suppose no one else behind us or ahead of us here in the draft packs are in red-white, as well with the Oxida Finisher also coming around to us. No one's really going to be in red-white, but we're too far removed from red-white to be able to pivot into that. So we're going to take a Hive Master here, which is, again, a decent Toxic card. You can sacrifice it and still get a token out of it. And you can also just trade it off, get a token, then sacrifice the token to the Skitterling here if we have poison on the opponent. Okay, so we have Testament Bearer. Semi-card advantage if you want to trade it off for a creature with the 4 power. You can make it as a blocker that can force the opponent to trade with it, unless the creature has first strike or something. Maze Skull Bomb may be better because you can at least sideboard into it if you need it as a semi-sorcery combat trick to get over the opponent with trample and get poison counters. Yeah, I did click it in time. Didn't realize that the timer was going down so quick. You can also sacrifice the Skull Bomb to the Skitterling and without paying the mana cost to draw a card. This is good in the poison counter corrupted decks, but double white makes it difficult to splash, and we already have the Tainted Observers for the blue mana. Whisper of the Dross proliferates, and it can kill X1 creatures, so at least we can sideboard into it if we need it, if we're not going to have it in the main deck. Unnatural Restoration is pretty good for us here. We can get back the Tainted Observers, as well as the Rot Priests, which are creatures that we would definitely like to have back if possible. We can also go ahead and get a Hive Master back, put it onto the field, and then if it dies, we get another token out of it, so that's also pretty decent. And of course, the Unnatural Restoration does proliferate, which is good in the poison counter deck as well. So Carnivorous Canopy, I guess this is a good sideboard option for us. If there's an opponent that has lots of artifacts, like blue-white artifacts, they also have lots of flying creatures in blue-white. So I'll go ahead and take this for the sideboard. And the Basilisk on the wheel is pretty decent. Yeah, this is more of a constructed card, not something that anyone's ever going to play in Limited in the draft formats. So I'll go ahead and take the 1/3 Toxic creature that we can occasionally get in with. I guess we'll take the Maze's Mantle for sideboard in case the opponent has lots of removal. And then I guess we'll take the Gladiator for the Corrupted Synergies since we have a decent amount of ways to proliferate poison counters. Guess I'll take the Cultivator for sideboard in case there's like a really aggressive deck and we need more 1-drops. Not that I don't already have a good amount of 1-drops and 2-drops, but you never know. So double green, the spell can't be countered. So this is just an all-around good card. So it's not really synergistic with the deck, but it's just so good on its own that we're just going to hard take it here, not look back. And it has Indestructible on your own turn, so the opponent can't do removal on it, like as an instant speed removal spell to try and kill it when you're attacking with it. And it can't be countered, and it can't be the target of non-green spells or abilities. So essentially, once this gets onto the field, the opponent is going to have a rough time. So I'm going to go with that. Infectious Bite would be good on the wheel, as well as the Fleshless Gladiator. And then maybe if we're in a pinch, we can just take the Sky Scythe Engulfer. Okay, so we have a 4-mana Toxic creature here, which I'm going to be happy to take. We also have Thirsting Roots, which probably wheels. We can probably get it on the wheel to splash the Observers and get some more proliferate for the poison counters. So this is like kind of like a semi-land in our deck where if we need an extra land or the blue mana, then we can just use it for that in an opening hand. Makes more hands keepable as well. So yeah, we're going to go with the Venomous Brutalizer, which is Toxic 3. And obviously you can pay extra mana to get onto the field and proliferate in the late game. So pretty decent creature there with Toxic. So the opponent, if they let it attack in, then they're automatically getting corrupted if they don't want to block it. Okay, so we have another Skitterling here. So it's a choice between Skitterling and I think Siphoner to fly over the top and get the Corrupted Synergies early. We do have a good amount of ways to proliferate if we get at least one poison counter on the opponent, so that is a consideration. I think that the Siphoner may be more likely to wheel. It depends. Like the Skitterlings aren't necessarily highly taken in the drafts because they're a 3-drop in an aggressive format, and you have to have 1 and 2 drops in the first place to get corrupted on curve. I think I'm going to go ahead and take this because I'm less likely to find one and pack and later in the packs here. Maybe if I'm lucky, I'll wheel some 1 and 2 drop Toxic type cards. Okay, so nothing really in here for us that's great. Nothing really in green or black. I could just rare draft here. I'm not playing any of these 3 cards, I think. You already basically have a deck plus some sideboard options. Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and take the rare draft for the vault. Okay, so we have a Troll, which isn't really good in our deck. We have another land here, tapped land. Skull Bomb, I guess technically we could sacrifice this to Skitterling if we want to just take it and not worry about white mana. I'll just go ahead and take an uncommon for the vault here in case I want to play something in constructed. Don't think I was going to play any of those. So we already have 2 Skitterlings. I think I'm going to pass up on the 3rd one and instead take the Blightbelly Rat. 2-drop Toxic Creature that can get the Corrupted Synergies for the Skitterling to activate its ability. So pretty happy with the 2-drop Toxic Creature there. Okay, so we have another Skull Bomb here, which is okay, considering we can sacrifice it to a Skitterling, occasionally give a creature trample to get in for poison counters. I think that's going to be good enough here, and we can cycle it and draw a card. I think that's the only thing that's really in here for us, so we're going to go ahead and take it. Adaptive Sporesinger. Okay, so we can proliferate with this one. It's still a 3-drop, so I'm not sure if I'm going to play it, but it's the only card in here for us. Could take the uncommon for the vaults, but I'm thinking I'm going to take that, and at minimum I can sideboard into it. Fleshless Gladiator on the wheel is pretty awesome. We can usually get corrupted, and then in the late game I can get it back from the graveyard. So we can go ahead and do that, I would say, pretty consistently in most matchups. And then nothing really here for us. I'm just going to take the random removal spell here. Bonepicker Scourge on the wheel is pretty decent here. Maze's Mantle may be better for our sideboard, but having more corrupted, payoffs here, probably not bad. And then I guess we'll go ahead and just take the uncommon for the vault here. I'm not going to play the Cutthroat, not really a sideboard option. Take that, and Maze's Mantle for sideboard. Okay. So I'd say I'm pretty satisfied with this green-black Toxic deck that we have, and we have a decent amount of sideboard cards to work with as well. Got some combat tricks and removal on the sideboard, so I'm pretty happy about that. So on sideboard, we have 1 Carnivorous Canopy for the artifact heavy or flying heavy decks, and you can proliferate off of it as well. And then a couple of Maze's Mantle against removal heavy decks, and then Noxious Assault if we want to try and get past some opponents in the mid game. This can be a way to maybe try and beat a deck that has a couple of bomb cards, where we're going to try and end it before they can get the bomb cards going. So some decent sideboard cards for us. Now as far as the main deck, what shall we do? I think we're only going to play 1 island, and then we can fish up the island with Thirsting Roots. I guess we only ended up with 1 Thirsting Roots. I thought I was going to get another one on the wheel, so it's kind of less good to splash the, the Observers here. But we have Thirsting Roots, we have Prophetic Prism, and then we have 1 island, so it's 3 sources of splashable mana for these. I'll have to consider it and see if we need to do anything else here. So what can we cut here? Evolving Adaptive is still going to be good in here, especially with the Proliferate cards. So we can get it bigger with all the 2-drops and 3-drops and get it at least to a 3/3 for 1 mana. And then we can Proliferate to make it bigger in the late game. And then there's also these things which can proliferate and keep on getting the Evolving Adaptive bigger as well. So for that reason, I think I still want to keep it. Expand the Sphere, still situational. I'll put it over here. See if I want to cut that one. This is really awesome and just an all-around good card. So 13 lands, 14, 15. I think I want to play 16 lands and maybe prioritize green mana for Thirsting Roots, so that way I can at least play this to get mana fixing. So it'd be 14, 15, 16. So what other things would I think to cut here? So now that I have my mana base sorted out. Prism splashes, Thirsting Root splashes, so I don't want to get rid of those. Venomous Brutalizer is toxic, and if we get it in there, maybe with the Skull Bomb giving Trample, then we can give the Brutalizer Trample and allow it to get in for toxic and poison corrupt the opponent. Infectious Inquiry does give a poison counter, and it gets through blocking, type decks that have lots of blockers. So this is still good since we can proliferate the poison counter once we get it onto the opponent. Maybe the Adaptive Sporesinger is more of a filler card, even though it does proliferate. Infectious Bite is good since we have some creatures of Death Touch. We have the Basilisk, and then the Skull Dweller of Death Touch, and then Rot Priest can give Death Touch. And then we also have a big 5/5 creature and 4/4 creature that are pretty good with the Infectious Bite as well. And then Unnatural Restoration, we have a couple of bomb cards to get back from our graveyard. Observers, the Rot Priest, and the Thrune are definitely more than good to bring back. So I definitely like Unnatural Restoration here to get back a bomb card. Unfortunately, we didn't end up getting a Black Skull Bomb card, which can also get back a creature from the graveyard as well, which would be awesome in this deck, but can't win them all. I mean, this is a decent form of card advantage, and you can get fish for lands. Maybe you can get the blue mana early for the Tainted Observer. And you can proliferate with this if you don't get 2 lands. So it is 4 mana, though, so it's hard to get out on curve. It's not exactly great in your opening hand because, you probably want to prioritize playing creatures on curve. So maybe it's like more of a sideboard option. I'm not quite sure. So, I mean, if I'm going to cut these 2 cards, which are the most likely candidates, what would be the final cut in that case? Because I think all of these kind of fit in our deck. Maybe we can get rid of 1 Gladiator, because this is more of a corrupted payoff, and we only really need 1 to bring back from our graveyard, not 2 of them. Plus, you lose life every time you bring back 1, so like maybe you only need 1 Gladiator. Maybe Whisper of the Dross goes as well. It can proliferate, though, which is important in this deck to activate Corrupted. Because, like, say we go ahead and do, like, turn 1 Skull Dweller, and then the opponent also plays, like, an X1 or something like that. And then we can do Whisper of the Dross to kill a creature, or we can get in the Skull Dweller, and then if they don't block it, then we can get a 2-for-1 by -1/-1 and kill a creature, then get another poison counter. I mean, it could be more of a sideboard option in case we play against the deck of a lot of X1s, since that is sort of possible that we might just go into a game not knowing what we're facing. Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to take I just want to take 1 Gladiator out. So I'll take out 1 Gladiator, and I'll take out these 2 cards. A 4-drop Fishing for Lands, maybe just 2 situational here with Expand the Sphere. Like, it is a good sort of 2-for-1 effect, because you get to put 2 lands into the battlefield. The problem with that is that we only have 1 real mana sink here. Technically 2 with the Gladiator, but by the time we can mana sink with the Gladiator, we'll probably have more than enough mana. And Thrune is only a 5-drop, and that's the highest curve creature that we have. So ramping with 4 mana, not really what we're looking to do, even though it is a good effect, and it can proliferate. If we had like a big creature to ramp into, like the 7-mana Paladin with Toxic 6, then the Sphere would be a good card for us to ramp into that. But since we didn't end up getting one of those 6/7 Toxic 6 Paladins, then yeah, expand the Sphere, not quite as good for our deck. So I think that this is going to be the deck. 16 lands seems good to me. We have 3 ways of splashing that blue mana for the Observers. Hopefully we can reliably do that. I would have liked to have 1 more Thirsting Roots in this deck, and then maybe cutting, one of these 3 drops here. But I think that we're still going to be okay. Yeah, so I think we're still going to be alright. This can do card draw. Skull Bombs can do card draw to try and find lands that we need. So, I mean, we're going to be alright, I think. And then we can sideboard into some options like the Carnivorous Canopy and the Maze's Mantle if we need them. Maybe even the Noxious Assault if we feel like we need to get past the opponent. Alright, so green, black, Toxify. So we're going to go ahead and do this, and I'll go ahead and get into the drafts and matches now. All right, so first best of 3 playing in this sort of Phyrexia all will be one format. I will go ahead and see you guys for round 1. All right, round 1 of round 1. Let's see if we have to do how many rounds we have to do against this opponent. I will definitely want to play first since I want to get my toxic creatures out there fast. Unfortunately, this is a bit of a slow hand. Especially on the play, you want to get at least a 1-drop or a 2-drop out quickly. Thirsting Roots can fish for the blue mana, but if we have nothing to play, it may not matter. Plus, we can't proliferate with this anytime soon since we have no toxic creatures and no ways to give poison. I think we're going to have to mulligan this one. Alright, well this is even worse. We have no Thirsting Roots to find a mana. At most, we can try and draw into a land with the Skull Bomb. On the play, this is way too risky though, I think. Especially since we have a blue mana card and no blue mana. So we're also going to have to mull this one, unfortunately. Alright, this is pretty terrible too. Oh my god. I mean, we could potentially play Observer turn 3. We have green mana for Thirsting Roots if we draw into it. I mean, this is risky, but going down to 4 is also going to be risky, so I'm just going to have to keep this and get rid of a Skitterling, and yeah, I think we're just going to have to get rid of our Skitterlings here, and hope that we can draw into some black mana, or draw Thirsting Roots to find black mana. Okay, so we at least be able to get... We're at least going to be able to get out the Observer turn 3, which is okay. Not great. Definitely want a faster start here, especially against what is looking like a blue-white sort of... Could be red-blue oil counters, but it also looks like it's maybe blue-white artifacts. Alright, so which card do I want to put out first? I think I want to go ahead and do the Observer first, because then I can proliferate by playing out the Adaptive after it. So I think what I'm going to do here is I attack in with the Observer first on my next turn, and then after I put a poison counter on the opponent, then I play the Adaptive to proliferate the poison counter on the opponent. Hopefully they don't have like enchantment-based removal here. Okay, well, that's less than ideal. The Retrofitters are pretty awesome cards in the blue-white artifact deck. They get basically a free 4/4 out of it. Okay, well... Yeah, I think we just attack in here. We're not going to be blocking with the Observer, so let's attack in here, get the poison counter. And then let's play this out to proliferate and get it beefed up a little bit. Let's just auto-pay the 2 mana there. So if we grow the Adaptive big enough, then we could deal with 4/4, but right now we're in a bit of a bind. If we draw some removal, maybe we might be able to deal with the Retrofitter, but we have nothing that can kill it with our green removal with the Tainted Bite or whatever it was, Poisonous Bite card. We're not going to block either of those. Take it. And if I don't draw anything good here, I'll probably just go to the next game and not show them anything else. As far as they know, I'm green-blue and not green-black. Splashing blue. Yeah, Infectious Bite there is a pretty poor draw. The only removal that like doesn't really do anything for us in this situation. Yeah, I think I'm just going to have to go to the next game here and not show my opponent anything. As far as they're aware, I am green-blue, maybe oil counter type deck. Green-blue proliferate, maybe. So, like, they didn't see anything that was black. So, I just didn't want to give them any information as far as my deck. So, they don't really have much in the way of X1s. So, Whisper of the Dross is looking worse. Looks like they're splashing red for some equipment type cards, maybe. Blue-white splashing red for some equipment artifacts. And then yeah, so I think Whisper of the Dross is less good here because they don't really look like they have X1s. They could have 1/1 tokens, but you don't really want to Whisper of the Dross 1/1 tokens. You want to do it on like 3/1 creatures, 2/1 creatures, things like that. And then we're going to go ahead and sideboard into Carnivorous Canopy since they seem like they're an artifact-heavy deck. That's going to be pretty helpful to have. They could have some interaction being in blue-white, so Maze's Mantle could also be good here. Maybe Infectious Bite isn't quite as good here unless we get Death Touch. Maybe we can take out a Skull Bomb and go ahead and play Maze's Mantle just to make sure that we can have some interaction to maybe give Hexproof against some interaction that they have. Blue-white would have enchantment-based removal to worry about. So let's go ahead and bring in one Maze's Mantle. So that way we have some more interaction to work with here. Hopefully I'm not color screwed this time with my mana. I kind of gave them a bit of an easy win that first time. Alright, so this is a good hand. Prism turn 2 can at least draw us a card. We can maybe draw into something else that we can play with that, and we have all 3 colors of mana with this hand, so we're not really getting out any creatures until turn 3, but being able to draw a card on turn 2 is not too bad. So I'm going to go and play green mana again, so that way they don't see the black mana first. That way maybe they think I'm still green-blue for the most part. Alright, so let's see if we can fish for something we can play on... Okay, so that is something we can play, maybe after the Skittling and Hive Master. Another Skull Bomb. I'm hoping that they don't have... that 2/3 guy that turns the artifacts into a 4/4. That would be pretty bad. So what do I do here? Probably want to save the Carnivorous Canopy for when they play out something big. Like if they play their 2/3 and then turn something into a 4/4, I can just kill the 4/4 with this. Maybe drawing some cards and just getting a poison counter on the opponent now would be better. Because I'm probably not blocking a 4/4 if they get one on their next turn. Yeah, I think we just do that. Well, if I draw cards now, then I have to discard one, so I guess I can't really do that. Well, no, actually, if I do that... Oh, I'm trying to get my land out. There we go. So I play this, so I have 5 in hand, I draw 2. Yep, so I have 7 in hand. Alright, well that seems okay. I was trying to do the math there, but sometimes mathing is a bit hard. Right, so now we can play out... Maybe we can play out Skull Dweller, then Carnivorous Canopy, whatever they play out here. Yep, there's the Retrofitter. So we can Canopy plus Skull Dweller next turn, and then turn 5 we can get out Thrune to slow them down. And then they were kind of just deciding on if they wanted to scry or not. Alright, so I think we do this. Let's play out Skull Dweller, and then we Canopy the Skull Bomb. That's the 4/4. I think we need to do this now because it's sorcery speed, obviously, so... The next turn Thrune can kind of stabilize things a bit. So they can't really attack in with the Retrofitter unless they want to trade it off with the Skull Dweller, which I don't think that they would want to do, but... Skitterling's close to having the Corrupted synergy, which would allow us to draw some cards by sacrificing the Skull Dweller or the token we get from the Hive Master. Looks like they're fishing for something, maybe a land. They don't really have anything to proliferate except for the oil counter on the Seer, so at least they're not getting too great a value there. The Seer can't really block the Skull Dweller, so I can't attack him with it next turn. Alright, well I'm okay with that. It's better than having the Hive Master or the Scourge taken out here, since we're pretty close to getting corrupted on them. So I could just get out the Thrune, and then next turn I can proliferate with the Thirsting Roots to get corrupted, and then I can do corrupted with the Scourge or the Skitterling. Yeah, because I can sacrifice the Prism to the Skitterling and draw a card that way, which is pretty good. Because I have Thirsting Roots that can also go ahead and fish for our blue mana to where we no longer need the Prism. So I think that's probably what we do. Granted, I can't proliferate with this, but this has Toxic, so I could attack in with that. Let's just go ahead and get out the Thrune. They're not going to be able to interact with it. They can't, basically has hexproof against everything that the opponent can throw at us, because all their stuff is going to be non-green. So I don't know if the opponent's shitting their pants or not. Like, there are, in Constructed, there would be some board sweeper effects that could deal with the Thrune, but in this format, I don't think that there's anything that they could do that could actually target it or get rid of it. So they're going to have to try and go wide, I think, with tokens to be able to beat me. Okay, so the adaptive means I can play that out first, and then I can play out some other creatures to do the thing with it and make it grow bigger. And then I can attack in with this, but I think it might be good as a blocker as well. This has Toxic 1 and that has Toxic 1, so don't know if I would want to get corrupted if I can help it. So what do I do here? I can play the adaptive. I mean, I'm going to play this anyway, so let's just do this now, I guess. Since I don't think I'm going to attack in with the Thrune anyway. Then we can go ahead and play, I guess, the Hive Master here. That way we can attack in with it next turn at the very least. And then I could Thirsting Roots to proliferate now and make the adaptive bigger. And just kind of forget about the blue mana. I think that's what we have to do. It's sorcery speed, so let's go ahead and do it now. And we'll just keep the prison for the time being. If we need the blue mana, then we'll keep it. If not, that's okay too. Since we have a good blocker now, I think we do attack in with the Thrune. And just try and beat down their life total a little bit. Well, even with that, we can still block the Retrofitter if we really want to, since we already have the synergies that we want. I think I'll go ahead and I'll get rid of the Retrofitter. Granted, that has a good enter the battlefield effect, so if they can fish it up from the graveyard, that's kind of bad, but this also has a pretty decent effect. I'll just go with the one that's less toxic here. 3 damage is alright. That way they don't have corrupted at the very least this turn. Unless they proliferate like that one. Okay, so another Skitterling here. So we can fix with the Prism, but we only have 5 mana for 3 drops. So I have to kind of decide on what I want to do. I can do this to draw a card, and maybe I draw into a land by sacrificing the 1/1 token after combat, maybe. Yeah, I think that's something we can do. I think we play the Skitterling, do it now before combat so the adaptive gets bigger, I think. I don't know exactly how that works. I'll just do this pre-combat here. Okay, yep. So we do that pre-combat, then we can attack in here with everything, and we still have the Skitterling as a blocker. Okay. Didn't know if they maybe had a combat trick or something like that. And then we're going to go ahead and do this now with the token and keep our blue mana for now. See if we draw into a land to be able to play one of our other creatures. Well, I guess technically that works. We can still fix with the Prism, so that's actually pretty decent. I think we just play another Skitterling as a blocker here. So that way, even if they have removal, we have 2 blockers. And then we can sacrifice the Prism now. Now that we have all of our mana. I think we go ahead and do that. Well, actually, let's go ahead and... No, we'll save it. We'll save it since it's like instant speed, I believe. And plus, it's since they can hold priority, it can give us a bit of time to think about stuff a bit more on their turn. So they're not going to be able to poison us out. I don't know if they would have enough proliferate for that. I think in order for them to win, they have to go wide. Yeah, so they're trying to fish for an answer here. Yeah, so they can't really interact with the Throne, which is getting in a lot of damage each turn. Okay, so the Raptor, like if they can... I'm not even sure if they can even tap it down because they can't target it with anything that is like non-green, so can't be the target of non-green spells. Yep, so they can't really target it with anything. They can't try and get in with like tap it down effects either, since they can't target it with them. Alright, and so now we're going to go ahead and sacrifice the Prism, I think, since we already have all the mana sources that I think we need. And we get another black mana, so... Alright, so Infectious Bite, which is a pretty good draw now that we have our 5/5 out. So... could we win this turn? I mean, they have enough chump blockers where I don't think that we can win outright. But if we play the Scourge, then we would have an extra creature out there with Death Touch that the Raptor couldn't really do anything more than trade with. If I get rid of the Raptor, though, then the Scourge can go over the top and at least do things that way. I could also just save the Infectious Bite for a bigger threat that could turn the tide in their favor. Let's go and play the land, buy ourselves a bit more time here. I think what we do is we go ahead and play the Scourge before combat so the adaptive gets a bit bigger. This is instant speed removal, so let's go ahead and I think we attack in with everything. Since they have to block the Throne. We can attack in with that, and that, and that. And then we keep back 1 Skitterling as a blocker to make sure that we don't die. And then we can sack one of our creatures if they have like a removal spell in hand or some interaction or something, I don't know. Okay, so basically they can choose to trade if they're 1-4 if they really want to, which I'm okay with. So this is where we're going to do Infectious Bite, just to outright kill the opponent, or not to kill the opponent, but to get rid of one of their dudes. So they can choose to trade with the Skitterling now, if they really want to. Again, they're probably just trying to fish for an answer here to see if they have anything that can deal with the situation. Keeping one Skitterling back as a blocker is, I think, the right thing to do, just to make sure that they can't pull us over with like a random creature of some kind. Could have won the game with a Skitterling, but then they just block with the Dune Mover there. And I could draw a card on my own turn to see if I draw something I can play with 2 mana, but I think for now I'm just going to go with that. Alright, and our opponent scoots it out. Maybe doesn't want to show anything else for the third match. Alright, so what did we see from our opponent? So they did show one X1. This can also technically turn into an X1. Not sure if Whisper of the Dross is still any good here, considering the size of their creatures, so proliferating is always good. Hexgold Slash is maybe something that they're splashing in red for. Maybe they thought it was premium removal, which it is against our deck. And how much other interaction do they have? That's interaction. Let's see, this is turns their dudes into bigger creatures. They have some Skull Bomb type things, I think, to turn into 4/4s, and then they're splashing with the Dune Mover type cards. Okay, well, I think that we already have what we want from our sideboard into our main deck here. With we already have the Canopy, and then one Maze's Mantle I think is okay to give hexproof to some creatures, as well as just a general combat trick. I don't think that Whisper of the Dross is going to be good in this matchup. Being able to get the back of Fleshwurst Gladiator would be okay in this matchup, just to trade off with their 3/2s or different things like that. Not very good against the 4/4s, however. I mean, yeah, you can sacrifice them to the Skitterling, then get them back, but you really only need one to do that strategy, I would think. Yep, I think we already have what we want from our sideboard, so I think we're just going to go ahead and run it back here. Okay, looks like we have a pretty good opening hand here. Turn 1 Adaptive, turn 2 Siphoner, then turn 3 Bonepicker Scourge. And then Thirsting Roots can go ahead and find us another land if we really need it. And then if not, we can proliferate to try and get corrupted for the Skitterling and the Scourge. Seems pretty good to me. Okay, so we got the third land that we needed. That's excellent. Adaptive turn 1, then we can probably proliferate turn 3 or turn 4, depending on what we do. So their 2/1 can go ahead and block the Dune Mover. So I think we go with the 1/1 toxic creature that can go over the top in the air. And then we pass the turn because we don't want to trade off our adaptive for it. Since we can probably get it to a 3/3 or a 4/4 at some point here. No blocks. Okay, so now I can go ahead and Let's go ahead and get out another black mana, and then it's a matter of which creature do we want to get out. Do we want to just go in the air with our flying creatures? Maybe if we can give this lifelink, we can race the opponent a little bit. Yeah, I think we can do that. I think we just do this, get some flyers out there. And then we'll tack in with the toxic creature, get some poison going. Unfortunately, I don't really have any interaction or creatures right now to deal with the Dune Mover. If I end up drawing into my 5/5 Thrune, that would kind of stop them dead in their tracks here. If I can get corrupted, then Bonepicker Scourge can get us life back, so I'm just going to have to hold out for a little bit longer here. Now, the land is okay-ish. Let's go ahead and play out another black mana, and then... So I attack him with this, that gets him one more toxic, then I can proliferate with Thirsting Roots to give Bonepicker Scourge lifelink and Death Touch. I can also go ahead and play out a creature to maybe make the Evolving Adaptive bigger. Was this read like it's a battlefield under control? Greater power or toughness than Evolving Adaptive. Okay. Power or toughness. Sorry, so the Skitterling would make it bigger. So let's go ahead and make that bigger then. And then let's go ahead and proliferate now before combat. Yep, let's make the adaptive bigger as a blocker. And then what we're going to do is we're going to just attack in with the 1/1 to get the corrupted synergy going, I think. I don't want to trade off my adaptive just yet. And now Bonepicker Scourge has lifelink. We can also sacrifice the Siphoner as well. So now he's semi-stabilized. We can... Now that Scourge has Death Touch, it means that if we draw the Poisonous Ravenous Bite or whatever it is, Scourge can kill one of their dudes, probably the Retrofitter that's buffing up the Dune Mover. I'd be surprised if they attack here, because they're guaranteed to trade it off with the Scourge if they do. Okay, well, I'm okay with this. I already have Corrupted, so let's just get this. Alright, that's fine. Doesn't really change a whole lot on the board right now. Alright, so they can give them another poison counter. Losing life obviously is not ideal, but I think that drawing cards is always going to be a good thing. We got the extra mana, and then I don't know if it really matters what order that I do things in here. I can always attack in first and see how they block, but because they would have to double block and lose both the Escaped Experiment and the Retrofitter to kill the Evolving Adaptive. Well, let's see what they do here. See if they want to trade off with the Evolving Adaptive. Maybe they have some interaction here to do something. If they have interaction, then Skitterling can sacrifice a creature in response if they really want to get rid of something. Okay, well, I'm okay with that if that's what they want to do. So we're going to draw some cards before playing the Gladiator, just to see what we draw first. Okay, so unfortunately we don't have the blue mana for the Observer right now, but we do have Maze's Mantle, which is probably going to be good against them if they have interaction. Let's go and play this out, and we can use it as a chump blocker at the very least. We can also use it as sack fodder as well at the end of the opponent's turn and then get it back from our graveyard, so... Okay, so our 2/2 Gladiator can block that pretty reliably. So they can get in for 4 damage here as it looks. Yep, I can still chump block here, which is still okay. And then we sacrifice it. And we can get it back on our next turn if we so wish. Alright, there's the blue mana, which is perfect. So let's go ahead and get that out there. It's only, yeah, you get it back to the battlefield tapped, which means that we want to do Observer first, and then we can do this second to proliferate a little bit, and maybe we can just proliferate the opponent out. We can also, I don't know if that's sorcery speed. No, this is instant speed, I think, so we can do that in response. And maybe we can hold up the Maze's Mantle, and then if they don't do any interaction, or if they don't make like a big attack, then we can do the Fleshless Gladiator at the end of their turn. I think I'm okay with that. Let's go ahead and bring out this bad boy. Then we can hold up the Mantle, I would think. Let's get in for one more poison counter here and see if we can win by poison. If nothing else, I can also sacrifice it to the Skitterling as well. I think I'll just hold up the Maze's Mantle. Putting up the Gladiator tapped doesn't really change anything here. So we'll just hold up Maze's Mantle as a combat trick that can save us from removal. Okay, so let's let that get out there and choose something. And we Maze's Mantle in response to give hexproof. And our creature is not going to be tapped. What? How does that work? It's supposed to get hexproof. Oh, I guess it's technically not a toxic creature. That's my mistake there. But it does make the creature bigger. I thought that it would allow it to get hexproof, but I forgot it has oil counters and not toxic. So that's unfortunate. Could have made the Tainted Observer bigger as a blocker for this, which would have been pretty important actually, considering our life total. Yeah, so that was a big mistake. If I did the Maze's Mantle on the Observer, then I could block the Prowlers, or one of the Prowlers at least. And not have to trade off with it, basically. It makes sense for them to attack with everything here. So I think what I do here is I block one Prowler with a Skitterling, and then I do Tainted Observer blocking their Experiment. Looks like they're trying to decide on how they attack here. If they don't kill me, I'm probably in good shape here, because they're attacking with basically everything. Okay, so we can do, again, sort of like a chump block here. I guess we can just prevent one toxic damage by doing this, and then we'll block 3 damage that way, so they're only doing 5 and no toxic damage. Okay, so we're still alive. We have all of our creatures. And then Yeah, I think we just want to keep our Siphoner for now and not sacrifice it. Okay, let's play out some green mana. Put this onto the battlefield tapped, and then we can always just go ahead and sacrifice it as well. Yep, let's proliferate. Make our adaptive bigger. Put some more poison on there, and then we can go ahead and sacrifice the gladiator and just do a wombo combo here if we really want to. But we would lose life if we do that. Yeah, so this has Toxic 1, that has Toxic 1. We need to be able to proliferate, I think, to be able to win. Yeah, so let's go ahead and sacrifice this one more time since it's not doing anything for us. Since it is tapped. Okay, so now the land kind of hurts. So we have 2 life left. These don't deal damage. So they can attack in with 4 creatures. We have 4 blockers as of now. All of those creatures are lethal. If we get out another creature and proliferate, then we can kill them next turn with poison counters by playing out the gladiator. Well, potentially kill them with poison counters. Yeah, I think we just need to stay back and survive here for one more turn. They're going to scry to see if they can draw something helpful, which makes sense. Alright, bottom is good for us. And another bottom would also be good for us. Alright, so bottom twice. Okay, a raptor's not terribly bad. Granted, means our toxic 1/1 flyer can't really get in there now, but we just need to proliferate with our observer at this point, I think, to win. We have a blocker for the raptor. Let's just wait here. Alright, Basilisk, this is another blocker. And it proliferates, so I think we do this. Play out a swamp. Get this thing out there as another blocker. Pay another 2 to proliferate here. And then... So I think we can play the gladiator. We can't proliferate with it, however, if we do that. Since we don't have the 2 mana remaining to proliferate with this. So yeah, I think we need to survive one more turn, I would think. We have blockers to match their attackers. Yeah, this is pretty tough. We have not enough here. If we had the Skull Bomb to give the adaptive or some other creature trample to get in poison, then we could do it. But I don't think that we can. Because we would need 2 extra mana to activate the proliferate off of the observer here. We are 1 poison counter short of winning. So I think we have to do no attacks and hope that they don't have anything here. Next turn we win if they don't draw a flyer or some interaction, basically. And they can scry once. Looks like they're thinking about this one, so they could have something here that's helpful. If they had something that would win them the game, it would be an instant top, so maybe they're thinking about it. So yeah, next turn, I mean, if we last to next turn, I think we win. If they don't... Yep, alright, we win! GG's. Yeah, if they had any kind of interaction there, or a flying creature of some kind, then they stall it out one more turn. So yeah, I'm assuming they drew a land, or maybe some other ground creature that doesn't help them against our flyers. No removal or interaction to deal with the Observer and the Siphoner. And they knew that we have the Gladiator here to play from the graveyard, so they probably felt, okay, I don't have anything to deal with both of the flyers that they can attack in with next turn to get one toxic and then proliferate by playing this and draining only one life from me. So I'd be at 1 life if I played this and then pay the 2 mana to proliferate and get them to 10 poison counters after attacking. So really close one. That was by the skin of our teeth there. I did not expect it to, well, anything that's a grinder like that, you know, toxic decks can be kind of like that in this format where you're trying to grind them to 10 poison counters, but we were able to get it done. I did make a mistake there with the combat trick on the wrong creature, which may have cost us in other situations, but we were able to somehow get the win there. And so let's go ahead and move on to series number 2 against our second opponent here. Alright, that didn't take long to wait for our opponent, so got our next combatant, next opponent, our next adversary that's going to try and beat us to a pulp in this very fast beatdown format. I'm assuming they want to be on the play. Almost every deck in this format would want to be on the play, so no surprise, but this is a good curve out. Turn 1 adaptive, and then we can do turn 2 Siphoner if we want, and then turn 3 Hive Master to grow the adaptive. We could also do turn 2 Skull Bomb and draw a card with it if we really want to, so... Unfortunately, the Siphoner doesn't grow the adaptive here, which kind of sucks, but we'll make do. Okay, so let's go ahead and play the green and get out the adaptive. And if they attack in here, I'm just going to have to take it. Alright, so that's going to be able to add some more toxic to the chorus, which kind of sucks. And makes it to where I can't even block it if I wanted to. Thrune is a good draw. I can't play it for a while, but at the very least I can get in there with creatures of my own. Sadly, no ramp in this deck to get Thrune out faster, but you know, you can't have it all. The Atlas, the 3-mana Atlas instead of the Prophetic Prism might have been better for this deck, so I could get Thrune out on turn 4, but you know, it is what it is. Don't chump block there. They're just going to have Corrupted, and it's going to be the way it is. Copper Longlegs, yeah, that's pretty bad news for us, but at least we can play out the Hive Master to block their chorus, crawling chorus that they have. And no attacks. Kind of pointless to attack in with their 1/3 sitting there right now, so Copper Longlegs could become a 1/5 if they wanted to. So they have quite a bit of Toxic going on right now. This also has Toxic 1, I think, so we're in a bad spot in that regard. Probably going to sideboard into Carnivorous Canopy, since they have some good targets for us. That's a flying creature. This is an artifact. And this gives flying to a creature as well, so we can maybe use Canopy on one of those things. So this is sorcery speed, so we have to do that before combat, which kind of sucks, but it would allow us to get in with the Siphoner, but because we're not going to block with it, so maybe we can just do that and try and draw a card at the same time. Let's just grow that and try and get in for some toxic damage here. If it was instant speed, that would have been great, but unfortunately, it's not the way it goes with the skull bombs. Alright, so we're at a dangerously high level of toxic right now. And they can buff up their creatures as well, which, again, is bad. Thrune is good here. Sadly, we may not live to make use of Thrune since they can buff the team. Thrune is a very good blocker, though. Very good blocker. So I want to show the Thrune in match 1 when it's not looking good. I mean, it does grow the adaptive to be able to block better. So I think we still have a chance if we play the Thrune, because then they can't attack in with their flyers quite as easily. And then I think we attack in with the Hive Master now. And then the adaptives can still block their dudes, I think. Even if they buff the team with the glider, the adaptive can still block both of their ground creatures. So we have mana for the 2/3 blue-green creature that flies, which would be one way out of this. So I think we need to stop the toxic. I think going to 8 toxic would be way too much right now. It would be too dangerously close, I would think, if they have a way to make toxic tokens. Okay, the Basilisk is pretty good. I'm going to play out the blue mana in case I draw into that 2/3 flyer, which would be pretty good for us here. Okay, so Infectious Inquiry, not bad either. It would... Corrupted, we don't have anything with Corrupted synergy right now. We just need to try and race the opponent at this point, since we don't have any flyers to deal with what they have. Poison counter isn't really relevant. I think that we just go ahead and play out the Basilisk and keep our life total up, I think. Let's attack in first and see how they block. Definitely attacking with that, and then I think we attack in with both the Hive Master and the Adaptive, and then we can play out the Basilisk after combat. That's Toxic 1, but I can block that presumably, so they could get us to Toxic 9 next turn. If they proliferate, we're dead. But I think we have to force them to make some blocks here because Thrune has Trample. Alright, so they're going to chump off a Toxic creature. Maybe they have a combat trick here in store for us. Alright, I'm just going to sacrifice it and proliferate with the Spider. Okay, and then we play out the Basilisk that can block their Toxic token. And if they can't proliferate here, I think we win. Ah, they're going to give that Toxic. I see. Forgot about this thing. Gives a Toxic 1 and they get in for the win, so... Sadly, this doesn't have reach. Alright, so we're going to go to game 2 here. I should have kept the Injector more in mind, that could give a flying creature Toxic. Okay, so let's see, they have some things here. Definitely have targets for the Carnivorous Canopy, so let's go ahead and bring in that. Maybe we might want to get in for the Noxious Assault as well to try and get past their defenses. Maybe a Maze's Mantle Combat Trick is also going to be good here to get past their blocking creatures. And maybe we can block one of their flyers with that as well. And then Brutalizer hasn't come up, but we haven't really drawn into it either, so ways to deal with flying creatures is something we could use. We don't really have any reach creatures on the sideboard here, so we don't really have anything there that can help. Well, we can't splash that, and we can't splash that in blue. If we could splash the Sentry, then I could play that as just a flying blocker to slow them down, but can't really do that. Can't really do that. What do we cut here? Maybe we cut a Skull Bomb since it's not going to be as helpful here, and then Whisper of the Dross, not going to be great here. They don't really have much in the way of X1s. I mean, they do have the 1/1 1-drop that they have, and they could presumably make tokens. But I don't know if the, again, -1/-1 removal I don't think is going to really do it here. So I think that's what we're going to have to do. Didn't really show enough quality targets for -1/-1 removal there. Alright, we definitely want to play first this time. Great hand. So we can go ahead and... I mean, we don't do anything until turn 3, but being able to go ahead and Infectious Bite with the Observer on one of their 2/2s is definitely good. And having all 3 colors of mana in the opening hand is also good, so definitely worth a keep. Yeah, again, it is a bit slow, but you know, it's good enough with all 3 colors. We have some interaction. We can get back the Observer with the Unnatural Restoration, so don't want to hold up priority with Thirsting Roots there, so. Alright, Rot Priest is a really good draw that can give the Observer Death Touch. And I think that means that we want to go ahead and use Thirsting Roots to go ahead and fish up another land, I would think. We do it this turn. And we go for the extra green since we have some double green in this deck that we need it for. That way we can reliably get the Rot Priest out on turn 4. Okay, so we're going to be able to block that. That's one of another creature with toxic attacks. So the Singer doesn't get buffed by its own ability, which is good. And this doesn't give it extra power, which is also good. Thrune is great. That's why I got the extra green mana there. Don't want to play it out this turn because I want to get out the Tainted Observer, who at this point can block the Singer. And I can get it back with the Unnatural Restoration if they have interaction or some way to deal with it. Okay, so it can block. Death Priest, or the Rot Priest, being able to give Death Touch can get past the Copper Longlegs, so that's one way to deal with it. I can also Infectious Bite post-combat to deal with it as well, but I don't think I want to use it for that, since the Death Touch Infectious Bite combo is probably better. Blight Belly Rat is also decent enough here to trade with the Singer if they don't equip it. And they're kind of stuck on 2 lands right now, so I think we just do the Rot Priest. And we just get this out there as a 1/5 blocker that at minimum can block their dudes. No attacks. And green removal, not likely to be able to deal with the Rot Priest. So white enchantment based removal could take care of the Rot Priest. But then we still have the observers, at least a blocker, so unfortunately that's not going to help the long legs deal with Death Touch, so we have another Death Touch creature with Toxic, which is good. We don't have enough mana for both Death Touch plus Infectious Bite, unfortunately. So I could just go ahead and fill out the board a bit more here and maybe attack in with the Basilisk next turn. Or I can do Basilisk this turn, then Infectious Bite next turn to be able to kill something with Death Touch. I think that's probably a decent plan. We don't have enough mana to do the Proliferate, but they don't have any poison counters on them yet, so can't do that quite yet anyway. So we have one Death Touch blocker that can also attack in there, and then we can Proliferate the poison counter. Looks like they got their third mana. If they have enchantment removal, they probably use it now on one of our two bombs. Either the Rot Priest or the Observer, but if it's green removal, then they're not going to be able to kill either one of them, I would think. They don't have any creatures with Death Touch right now or high power. Okay, so they get flying there, which is going to be tough sledding, but at the very least this is only enter the battlefield effect, so no blocks here. We're going to take the Toxic. We're not corrupted yet, so that's okay. We get the 5th mana so we can get out the Thrune. We can also do Blight Belly Rat plus Infectious Bite just to fill out the board even more. We can take care of the Singer, and then we can block their Flyer. Because otherwise the Raptor gets buffed up by the Singer. Yeah, I think it's probably better here than getting out the Thrune right now. Let's just go and play this. We're not going to proliferate. Decline. And then we're going to go ahead and Death Touch with this onto the Singer. And now, do we want to attack? I think we do. We want to go ahead and get some Toxic now. And then we can leave back the Rot Priest as sort of a blocker here. Well, I don't want to attack in with the Observer because then the Longlegs and the Raptor can double block it, I suppose. So we'll attack into the Basilisk since it has Death Touch and kills either creature. Then next turn we can do Thrune. So if they're attacking in, it could mean that they have like a combat trick of some kind. I'd rather force them to use it, and then I can unnatural restoration with the Observer at some point. I'll make them use their combat trick that they have. Then I can get in Thrune, which is going to be pretty awesome here. So I can attack in with everything, since I don't think I'm going to be able to block with any of them. This only returns it to my hand. So let's go ahead and, well, I could have played the Observer so that way I can get some more poison counters on the opponent. Well, I guess technically this is going to do the extra poison counter thing, so we can just attack him with everything. And then I can maybe instant speed give Death Touch to something if I want. Then I could Unnatural Restoration plus Death Touch, I think. Yep, so let's just go ahead and do the Death Touch here while we can. And get rid of the long legs. And then we can Unnatural Restoration and Proliferate. Just try and beat them with Poison rather than Thrune. So they can't attack here because they need to prevent themselves from getting poisoned out. So the Raptor can't really attack here even if they have removal. Yep, that's going to do it. Alright, so we're going to move on to Game 3 here. Wish I took another Carnivorous Canopy in the sideboard. I think I had a chance at 2 of them and I only got 1, so that is kind of unfortunate. So another Mace's Mantle could be good here since they have a good amount of things like their own combat tricks. Maybe the Skitterling is too slow. And it can't block their flying creatures as well. How many creatures do we currently have? 16, so we have more than enough. Yeah, maybe 1 Skitterling's plenty here in this matchup, and then we can play another Mace's Mantle to match their own combat tricks. Since we only really need 1 Skitterling to do sacrificing, they're otherwise just 1/4 blockers, so having multiple of the Skitterlings out doesn't really get your drawing cards going any faster, I would think. Did they show any more targets for Whisper of the Dross? Not really. The Singer's not a good target. Yeah, so Whisper of the Dross is not looking good here. Gladiator's mediocre. It's not going to block their flying creatures. It can go infinite, but we only need 1 Skitterling for it to go infinite, and we only need like 1 of each with the Gladiator and the Skitterling, so I think that's probably enough. Maybe we can bring back in a Skull Bomb just to try and get past them for Toxic or something. Oh, what do we take out if we bring back another Skull Bomb? Maybe a Bone Picker Scourge is a bit too slow, and the Skull Bomb is better to give Trample to something that has like Poison and Death Touch or whatever. Toxic and Death Touch or something. Yeah, let's go ahead and take out a Scourge, and we'll put in another Skull Bomb to cycle through stuff. We already have plenty of 3 drops anyway, so kind of got in there at the last second for my sideboarding. Yeah, 2/2 flyer against their deck that can have bigger flyers to, at the very least, trade with my flyer is not looking quite as good here, so. Alright, so this is a decent hand. We can do turn 2 draw with the Prism, and then turn 3... turn 3 we can get out the Observer since we have the Prism as well, and then Bone Picker Scourge after that. And then if they get rid of the Observer, we get it back with the Restoration. So I think this is a pretty decent hand. Alright, so that's going to be trouble for us on the play. Fleshless Gladiator can block it, however, so we might just do that on turn 2. Slow down their Toxic plan. Another Observer. So if we play the Prism out now, we can have the blue mana available for turn 3 and Observer. If we play the Gladiator now, we slow down their poison counters. I think we just play the Gladiator now, prevent them from getting the poison counter corrupted synergies going early. And if they have removal or some kind of interaction, I'd rather have them use it on the Gladiator, since I can potentially get it back. So if they have a combat trick to get rid of it with their chorus, then I'm just going to have to be happy with that they're getting rid of it when I can get it back eventually. Prism would be better for the turn 3 play, but I can still play the Scourge turn 3. Yeah, so if they're going to attack in here, I'm going to force them to use their combat trick. That's why I played this out turn 2. Yep. So unfortunately I can't really block that now, but I still think that... So if we do the Prism now, we can at least draw a card. And then next turn we can do a Tainted Observer. Bone Picker Scourge isn't very good until we get corrupted anyway, so I think that now we just gotta do the Prism and then kind of stop the bleeding. Guess technically we would have gotten the blue mana anyway, but obviously I couldn't know that before I drew the card, so... Okay, so that's gonna be a problem. Means that I might want to play out this 4/4 instead that can block both of them. Yeah, let's go ahead and just play out the Brutalizer that can block at least one of them. They might attack in with both anyway, so they can get the Corrupted, but being able to take care of one of their dudes I think is going to be good for us. They could have like 2 mana Ossification enchantment removal in their hand. I don't remember if Ossification has Flash or not. They have something at instant speed, I'll just say that. But Ossification is 2 mana white removal. Any other enchantment based removal in white can deal with the Brutalizer and kind of make things tough on us. I wanted to get out the Observers early, but I would have had to play the Prism on turn 2. Okay, so if they're attacking in here, I just want to prevent them from having another combat trick that gives them great value here, so... Giant Growth still gets us, and they keep their creature, but... if they have it, they have it. Okay, so they'll trade at the very least, but if they had something that was like +2/+2 combat trick, then at least I would still have traded off with that creature. I didn't want to have the +2/+2 on the chorus, and then they kill my creature and I don't kill theirs. Now I think let's play that, and then we can do a Natural Restoration plus Observer here, which is not too bad. I think we need to do that and get stuff into our hand right away. We're not going to be able to proliferate poison counters this way, but at least we get our big creature back. We're in a bit of a tough spot here because they can keep on attacking. But if we draw the Thrune, we also get into some good shape. That's a bad sign for us. So let's play the land. I think we do Adaptive first, so that way we can grow it. Do we want to proliferate? I think we do, and then we can play the Bone Picker Scourge to do as a chump blocker, I think. And then we give that an extra counter to grow it, and then I think we want Bone Picker Scourge as a blocker in this case to slow down the bleeding. Yeah, Shepherd's pretty good against us, against all of our flyers. We need a combat trick Maze of the... Yeah, we need our own Maze's Mantle to be able to deal with that. That's going to be pretty terrible for us, I gotta say. Okay, so we have to make some chump blocks here. If we jump here... Jump here. And then I think we need to keep our observer alive for next turn. If we draw the Thrune, we might still be dead. We'll have to see if we can make it work. Yeah, I think they got us there with the early aggression and not being able to get out our big 5/5 Thrune. Yeah, I don't think that we have any way that we can win now. Brutalizer could block one of them. This could block their 3/3. But then they just get in with Toxic for the win. If I had enough mana to play both of these, I think I could survive one more turn. So I have 6 mana right now. Thirsting Roots can get one more, but it's cost 1 mana. Yeah, sadly, I think we're gonna lose this one. Sadly, we don't have anything to proliferate, so... guess for the sake of it, we can just play this out and fish for another land. Sadly. We're doing the Walk of Shame by playing out all the stuff that we can. Yeah, if we had more Creatures of Death Touch, we could have stopped the bleeding in our deck here. Or maybe like a removal spell, but... well-timed removal could have helped us here, but I think that we're just going to die. We do this, and then we die by Toxic. Well, GG's. You're not going to win them all. We didn't have enough on the sideboard to deal with an artifact-heavy deck. We didn't have... like, there's nothing really in the way of board sweepers in this format except for one green-red oil creature. That's like a 6 mana green-red uncommon that can deal 1 damage to the board, but other than that, there's like no real, like, there aren't many in the way of board sweeper type effects that we can get our hands on, so oh well, it happens. You win some, you lose some. If we manage to get a win here on our next opponent series matches, then we can go ahead and still get enough gems to get back up to about 1500. So we shall see. Opponent series match, you know, air quotes, whatever you want to call it. And our opponent, of course, is going to play first. There's almost no reason not to go first, and this is a easy mole. Yeah, if we had the way to dig up for a mana, we could keep this and play it turn 1 to get extra mana for turn 2. Then we can do Gladiator, and then maybe turn 3 something else if we draw a land, so... okay, this is at least somewhat better. Might have to bottom the Tainted Observer because I don't have any ways to do blue mana right now, so we're gonna keep this. It's a bit slow, but it will have to do. I have to decide if I want to do turn 1 adaptive or turn 1 tapped land so I can play something on turn 2. I don't have a 2-drop right now, and I don't have black mana, but I need to be able to play something, so I think I want to keep this hand. Yeah, I think it's risky either way, but if we draw the way to fish for mana, we could still be okay to get black mana. You can also sacrifice the Hunter's Mace to draw a card and try and fish for black mana, or the 1 mana fish for a land. Okay, Skull Bomb isn't too bad here. We can still play it. And then we'll just play this out here. Doesn't really make any difference how we do it. Yeah, so the order on that didn't really matter too much. They could have like a removal spell in hand, and they were kind of debating whether to use it on the adaptive or not. Prism can also draw a card. I think we do this, and then we just do this to draw a card right now. And see if we draw the Fish for Land spell. We don't. But we have the Prism for fixing now, which is okay. So now we have our black mana that we need. And so we can do this, and the next turn we could also potentially attack in with it using the Skull Bomb. So next turn we can do Necro Priest or the Rot Priest using the Prism. Menace and Toxic 2. Sadly, our Priest cannot block that. Okay, so Whisper of the Dross still doesn't help us much here. I mean, we could double block and save a creature. I mean, I guess, well, we only have 1 black mana though, so we can't play a black creature, then do Whisper of the Dross. So that's going to get in for Toxic 2. I think we just need to play the land right now, and then Skitterfang or Skitterling can't block it either because of the Menace. I think we just play the well, we can play the Skitterling. Well, I don't know, it doesn't really matter the order that which we do this. Let's just do we'll do the most mana efficient play for now, and next turn we'll have some stronger plays to do. And no blocks. We'd have to double block and lose the adaptive, so next turn we could do Whisper of the Dross and double block. Alright, so now we have an extra black mana now, which is good. We have another Head Cleaver. So if I do the Hive Master now, I can grow the adaptive 1 more time. The next turn the Skitterling can grow it again, since it would have 1 more toughness than it. Yeah, I think that's okay for now. And then the Skull Bomb is sort of holding priority right now. Well, I guess there's no point in attacking, because then I just tap the adaptive for nothing. And I need a double block to get rid of one of the Head Cleavers. So let's just hold up Whisper of the Dross with our Prism. And then we can double block next turn. So let's go ahead, and I think we're just going to go ahead and double block here. Kill one of them. And then if they have a combat trick, maybe Whisper of the Dross can do something for us here. If they have a combat trick, though, I think I'd more likely want to block with the Hive Master, though, to make sure I have enough power to deal with them. Well, let's just do it this way. They're not likely to get a 2-for-1 with 2 power on 8 toughness, so let's just do it like this. If they have their own Whisper of the Dross here, I can do one in response. Okay, so I just need to do Whisper of the Dross anyway to save a creature. Do it before it has hexproof. And now they can only kill one of them. Alright, so Infectious Bite can kill one of them. And then I do have that one green spell that can potentially get back the Rot Priest later, so it's not the end of the world. So, how do I want to do this? Skittling and Adaptive can sort of like double block. So I think we do Skittling, and then we can do Infectious Bite. It's like an instant speed trick. But if they draw into something that can maybe counter the Infectious Bite or what it's doing, I might want to just do it now. Yeah, let's just go ahead and attack in and see what they do, and we're not going to block either Head Cleaver here. You can just kind of race them a little bit. And I think we just do this now. Get at least one of them down off the board. Okay, so they draw some cards, but they also lose a bit of life in the racing situation. And I have this that can give trample to a creature pre-combat. So if I do the Skull Bomb on the Adaptive, I turn it into 7/7 with trample. And then they can chump a little bit with the... Well, I guess if I do use the Skull Bomb, I'd probably want to use it on the Hive Master so they can't exactly chump it as well. And then attacking with the Skitterling, that would be 1 extra damage that they would have to worry about. So we do the Skull Bomb here, and then we do it on the Hive Master, so that way they can't just block it with like the Head Cleaver. Nice. So we'll make them think that we have something in hand with our land, and then we'll attack in with everything. The Hive Master having trample means that makes it a bit more difficult to block here. And we'll play out the swamp. And I think we shall... Oh, okay, they're going to scoot. Yeah, I guess they were at too low of a life total, and maybe they didn't have anything in hand to deal with what we had. So let's see here. Whisper of the Dross. Do we have any good targets for it? I mean, we could do it in response to some of their stuff, but otherwise it's not looking so good here with all the creatures that they have. So I think that Whisper of the Dross is going to be taken out. They have 1 flying creature and some corrupted toxic type synergies in black-white. They could have some more flying creatures, like there's the 2/2 flying creatures with the corrupted synergy that we have. Like they could have a Siphoner, and they could also have Bone Picker Scourges in their deck as well. So I think we can speculate that they might have some of those and bring in the Canopy. What else? Skull Bombs seems good here to get in for extra damage. It came through pretty well in that match. Maybe the Maze's Mantle combat trick is also going to be good here since it's instant speed. I think that the 2/2 Bone Picker Scourges maybe just not quite as good here because they have a 1/3 that can block it pretty effectively. Okay, I think one Maze's Mantle is going to be okay here. Plus, we have the Skull Bombs for sorcery speed pumping. Infectious Bite can potentially do something as well if they double block, for example. Yeah, I think this is going to be good enough. And if we need to add in another Maze's Mantle for match number 3, then we can always do that. Alright, easy mole. 1 lander. Not going to get it done. We would need like a green mana plus the Fish for Mana spell to make this keepable. But even then, we'd want to use the Fish for Land to get the blue mana for that. So, easy mulligan. This is much better. We can do turn 2 Siphoner and the turn 3 Basilisk. And then turn 4 Brutalizer. It kind of sucks to bottom the Mace's Mantle here, but I think we might have to. I think we do turn 1 Hunter Maze since it's a tapped land. I mean, we have 2 toxic creatures. Well, all of our creatures are toxic, so I really want to be able to keep the Maze's Mantle for the hexproof. Dropping a land, though, would be kind of risky because then we can only play out 1 creature. As tough it is to do, I think we have to drop the Maze's Mantle and keep the creatures. I can also give the +2/+2 to the Siphoner and allow it to tack in better. Maybe that's actually arguably better, actually, than the Basilisk. This having Death Touch is great, but making this a 3/3 flyer against their 1/3 flyer and all the other creatures that they might have, probably going to be better against them. Okay, that's a decent draw. Can potentially get back the Brutalizer if we end up losing it. Bursting Roots. So we can fish for the blue mana now. Oh, just your good old pal, Lovebat here, making mistakes. Played out the wrong land. I should have done the Siphoner there. Well, let's just fish for the land now and make use of mana, because I made a mistake and I made a boo-boo here. Just your good old pal, the Lovebat, making screw-ups to hurt himself in the foot. Haven't shot myself in the foot quite yet, but we'll see if it turns out that way. Alright, so now we go ahead and play the Siphoner a turn late. Really shouldn't have happened. They attack in with their 2 Might tokens because I don't have any blockers to really deal with them. So they're getting corrupted on us right away. I'm just going to have to live with that. It sucks, but at least Thrune is a consolation prize for my very terrible mistake. play out the land, and then we're just going to play out the Brutalizer here as a blocker. Not going to be able to proliferate, but that's okay. Now a Natural Restoration can proliferate their poison counter on them. I don't know, they might choose to attack in anyway with their 1/1s and just get some more poison counters on us since they can't block anyway. They could also use them as sack fodder for some of their black-based removal or something like that. Might be what they're considering here if they have the Brutalizer selected. Yep. Get rid of the Brutalizer, but I can get it back with the Unnatural Restoration, so not all is lost here. If I draw a land, then I can do the Maze's Mantle. Okay, well it's not a land, but it's something, I guess. So I can do Infectious Bite now on the Duelist, plus Restoration. It has double strikes, so combat tricks are particularly effective with it. So if I block with the Siphoner, Maze's Mantle may not be enough if they have a combat trick. Well, let's attack in first. See what they do. See if they like use removal on it or something. All right. So they're not holding up priorities, so I think we do Infectious Bite now while we can kill the Duelist. And then we do Unnatural Restoration and we get back our 4/4 that we know we can play next turn if we need to. So we're kind of racing them a bit with poison counters and trying to just keep their field a bit empty as far as creatures. They could draw with the draw spits here if they don't have anything to play, but they do. Oh, that's not a good sign, but we can get the Thrune out if we have a land. We don't. Might need the Maze's Mantle and kill the Shepherd as a blocking sort of combat trick. I could also attack in with the Siphoner and see if they block, and then I can do the Maze's Mantle plus Skull Bomb. But then they get in for Toxic 3 and put us to 8 poison counters, which is not good. I can play the Skitterling, and then I can chump block the Shepherd next turn and then sacrifice the Siphoner, plus playing the Skull Bomb. That might be the best thing for us here. Play the Skull Bomb. And we're not going to attack right now. We need to prevent them from poisoning us out. So what I probably do is I do Siphoner on the Shepherd to prevent the damage, and then sacrifice it. Right, well we can sacrifice itself, I think, so. Okay, so now I need to probably block one of the 1/1s and trade off with it. So Thrune might help us stabilize if we draw a land. If not, the Brutalizer can kind of do that. We really need an extra land here, though. If we don't draw a land, I might just leave the match early. Yeah, that's not going to do it. So I play out the Brutalizer. I can block, or I can also just play out the Skitterling, block a 1/1, kill a 1/1, go to 9 Toxic and 6 life. The next turn I can play the Brutalizer or the Thrune. They have another Shepherd in hand as well, so I don't think that we can win this. We don't have a flying creature to deal with the Shepherd. Let's just play out the Brutalizer that they know that we have. And we can draw out the game for one more turn to see if they have anything else for our sideboard. They're not playing the Shepherd pre-combat, so... Yep, I guess technically they have the Toxic there with the Indoctrination Attendant, and we're already dead, so... Yep, they didn't have to play anything else there. That was my mistake. I didn't read the cards properly. Good old boy Lovebat, not remembering that the Attendant also has Toxic on it, so... Let's see here. There's a 1/1. And they have 1/1 token generation with Charge of the Mites and the Indoctrination Attendant, as well as the Basilica Shepherd. The only good 1/1 target, though, for Whisper of the Dross is their Jawbone Duelist. Like, using Whisper of the Dross on a 1/1 Might token is not really what you want to be doing. So... maybe another combat trick to help out some of my blockers against maybe they're 3/3. I can trade off my 1/1, or I can block with like a 2/2 flyer, I would guess, like a Scourge. Let's get rid of one Skitterling, bring back in one Scourge, and then think that maybe the Skull Bomb, one of the Skull Bombs can go maybe. Basilisk is still a decent blocker for some of their bigger dudes. Yeah, let's see. Let's get rid of one Skull Bomb and then bring in the other Maze's Mantle here. That's maybe better as the sort of instant speed combat trick that we can do. They can also give Hexproof against some of their black removal. Can save some of our important creatures of Toxic here, like the Rot Priest and our Brutalizer, and some of the other creatures that we have of Toxic out here. Yeah, Maze's Mantle is pretty good against them, giving Hexproof against some of our better creatures here, so I think it's a good idea to have that in response to their removal that they have. Alright, we want to play first. Prism gives us green mana, so I think we keep this. We can do turn 2 Prism to draw a card and get green mana, or a green mana source. Then if we're lucky, turn 3 Basilisk if we draw a land in our draw steps. Either way, though, final match of this video, so let's see if we can do it. We have basically 3 cards we need to draw to hit one more land. That's definitely not a land, so let's see if we draw one here. That's not a land either, so if we don't draw a land here, we are in trouble. If we do draw one, we're probably still in trouble because that's an excellent 1-drop Toxic creature. Okay, well, that's not the land I wanted to see, but it is a land. Let's get out our 2/2 that can block their 1/1, sort of. Yeah, so they can make it to where we can't block with our 2/2 black creature. Okay, so that's going to take care of that. They are running out of cards in their hand, though, so I'm hoping that we can stabilize here. Yeah, it says first strike when it attacks. But Death Touch, this thing can tap and then pay mana to make it to where something can't be blocked. So if we get out both the Basilisk and the Skitterling, then one of them at least could block, since they couldn't give protection from both of the colors in the same turn. The Basilisk could also do Infectious Bite on the Skrelv as well. And we do Basilisk here as at least a good blocker, and then next turn we can do Infectious Bite if our Basilisk lives here. If they tap the Might to make the Duelist unblockable by the Basilisk, then that's not exactly bad use of their turn to... Or it's not bad for me is what I'm trying to say, because they already have Corrupted. So we're just going to have to try and stabilize as best we can here. Making the Sheldred unblockable is going to be unacceptable, so we definitely need to Infectious Bite the Defector Might, and then play out the Skitterling so I can double block the Head Cleaver. I also might just want to block the Duelist so that way I can get it off the board here. I guess I don't have to double block the Duelist, but if I double block it would be on the Head Cleaver. Yeah, I think we need to take care of Skrelv before things get out of hand here. But then I can't do the Chittering Skitterling though. I don't have enough mana for it. Decisions. I can only do one or the other, which means that the Head Cleaver is still getting in there. So let's just do this and kill it now. And then we can block the Duelist. And the Head Cleaver is still going to get in there, but just going to have to live with that for now. They put us up to 7 poison counters. Alright, now we're looking really bad. We are looking really bad now. So Thrune can potentially stabilize, but the problem is that these things have menace and they're going to get in too much toxic on us. Yeah, I think that we're actually dead here because we can't block 2 of them. So is there anything... we can't even draw with that by sacrificing the Prism. Thrune can't block one of the Menace dudes, unfortunately. Let's play it anyway. It's the last match. If there's nothing we can do, there's nothing we can do, but we're just going to play it out, I guess. Yep, GG's. If we got Thrune out 1 turn sooner, we might have been able to stabilize. But it didn't work out that way, so... Even in our low curve deck, we ended up losing a little too often there, so... But we had some good matches. We just weren't able to close out some of them, and we got kind of run over by poison counters in some cases, and... You know what? That's the way it goes. We didn't have much removal in our deck, so that's kind of what not having enough interaction does for you. So it's just the way it goes. A measly 250 gems is not very much, but we'll take it. 1-2, not the result I was looking for, but you know what? It's okay. You know, again, you win some, you lose some. That's just the way it goes. So, all right. So this first pack. Atraxa is unlimited, not something that you're easily going to be able to do. If you have green as a main color, then you could potentially get some fixing for it to be able to play it, because it is a bomb card that if you get it onto the field, then you're in pretty good shape. Yeah, so this is just a bomb card if you get it out. Getting it out is the question. Swooping Lookout is decent enough in the blue-white artifact decks. Having Vigilance and Flying means that if you can pump it up, then this can just be a very good attacker to constantly get in against the opponent. And it also does a good job blocking the 1/1 flying creatures that are somewhat common. And then you have Incubation Sac, which is sort of a slower card, but if you have like Proliferate or Oil Counter synergies, then you can just get out 3/3 creature tokens that can just keep on getting in there and being good value. Duelist of Deep Faith is also decent 2-drop. Troll is good in the Oil Counter decks. Then Escaped Experiment was decent enough in the artifact decks with blue-whites. You can turn it into a 4/4 if you have that 3-mana uncommon blue card that turns an artifacts into a 4/4. Yeah, I guess if it was pack one, pick one, Atraxa is still a decent rare to open up because you can build around fixing for it right from the very start. So I'd probably take Atraxa here, mainly just because it's a bomb card that by itself is going to be a game changer. The fact that it doesn't have hexproof or indestructible or something like that basically means that you would need a way to keep it protected, but so it can die to like black removal, for example, or enchantment removal. But it's still a bomb card, so I would still take that first pick. Alright, and then the other pack here, the Seed Core, seems like a bit of a slow thing to do here. Very specific, maybe more of a constructed card. Yeah, so you can pump up like 1/1 tokens with this if you have Corrupted, if like the black-white token generation to get a bunch of 1/1 tokens out there. But yeah, definitely something that you wouldn't pick first. It would go in the same deck as the Crawling Chorus, which is a good 1-drop that can get in toxic damage, and you can make a token if it dies. Vat of Rebirth is a bit too slow and too specific in my experience. Skull Bomb, this is the best Skull Bomb in the set. You can definitely take this and feel pretty good about it. You can draw a card and get a creature back with the same effect. So first pick, black is pretty good in this set, and Skull Bomb is a really good card, so I'd probably take this first pick. Hope to wheel maybe the Chorus if I'm in a black-white sort of toxic token type deck. Alright, well, this didn't go as well as I wanted with a 1-2 record, but I thank everyone for watching. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Hope you all enjoyed the very close matches there that were kind of nail-biters. 1-2 record is not what I was looking for, but I think it was still fun to play best of 3, kind of get more into the sideboarding and what kind of makes sense and figuring out the format. So, hope everyone had fun seeing a best of 3 match here, and hope everyone enjoyed it. Have a great rest of the weekend, and as always, take care.